Hello there. This week the topic is leading change. So last week we talked about leading teams. Now we are talking about leading change. Just keep in mind that this topic is a very broad topic. Like there are even courses you can take about change management, leading, how to lead change in the organizations. So I will do my best to give a quick, brief summary. And if you need more details, you have to read the chapter, okay? So what are the objectives of this week? Let's go through the objectives real quick. What are the forces of change? And how does culture, national culture, affect change in organizations? Describe types of changes and using Levin's model to explain the change process, summarizing the reasons for resistance to change in organizational level, group level, individual level, and what are possible solutions for this as a manager, and what are the present practices necessary to lead change, for example, creativity, innovation, changing the organizational culture, vision leadership, exemplary leadership, and creating learning organization environment. Okay, very good objectives, right? Let's start with the leadership question, just like we have every week. So let's read this. Change is hard and most people will resist it. Given this, should leaders simply push change, so get it over with, or should they take time, introduce things slowly, and give followers some kind of time to adjust themselves? Think about it, just like we do every week. Write it on a piece of paper, and when you finish listening to this lecture, you will see the answer. The textbook answer, of course. I'm not saying what you wrote in that paper is right or wrong, but you will see at the end of the lecture what is the textbook author is talking about, how the textbook author is answering this question. Let's start with, why do we make changes in the system, in organizations, in processes, any kind of equipment? Like, why do we need to do changes? Because there are some external forces and internal forces. What are the external forces that leads to change? There will be economic and political forces, okay, cultural and social forces. There will be demographic forces, industry forces, and technology forces. If you don't change, you're just gonna stuck in the same position, and that position is gonna cause you lose your customers, lose your position in the industry, in the economy. So the external forces is pushing you to improve. They are pushing to change, to improve your organization, okay? This improvement can be a process improvement, product improvement, service improvement, a simple application step improvement, okay? Or they can be very big changes like vision changes, adding a new department, any kind of change we are talking about here, okay? Organizational change. And then there are internal forces. What can be some internal forces that pushes your company or leaders, strategic leaders, upper echelon leaders, to make changes in the company? If the performance is low, okay, if the profits are low, if something is going wrong, or there's new leadership and they want to do things in their way, okay, in the methods that they think will enhance the system, okay? Or another internal force may be low satisfaction. If your employees are not satisfied, it might be some process might be causing your employers dissatisfaction, right? Or let's say some workstation, some standard work procedure causing back problems to your production floor employees. That's a force for change, right? It's an internal force for change. You need to take care of your employees, so you need to work on changing either the workstation design ergonomically, right? Or you can change the process, or you can change their scheduling that they don't work on that specific activity for long times. So there can be engineering methods used, right, or managerial methods used to make that change. And then there might be, if the upper management change, there might be mission vision changes, and there might be sometimes internal conflicts that pushes for change. So if you can think any other changes other than the ones I just noted down, you can actually add that to question answer forum for chapter 9 for week 11. I would really appreciate to see that, okay? And then we can discuss there. Just like in all the topics from the beginning of the semester, we always talked about culture, right? Because culture, national culture, affects resistance to change in the organizations, okay? Because every culture will have a different tolerance for ambiguity, for risks, okay? Change is a risk. So that every culture tolerate changes equally? Of course not. Some cultures are very standardized processes, right? They want to know what they are doing and they want to keep doing it forever. Some cultures are more open to innovation, changes, new things, new methods. They like improvement, continuous improvement, gradual improvement. So, and some cultures focus on more like short term. Some cultures give more importance to long term. So all these cultural differences affect how an organization will resist or respond to change. What are the types of changes? There are 4 types of changes. Hold on. First, there are 4 types of changes. One is planned changed. As you can tell from the word, what is a planned changed? Change that occurs when leaders or followers make a conscious effort, makes a planned effort to change in response to a problem or a force, okay? So they are planned changes. Unplanned changes are unexpected changes. So changes that occurs randomly and suddenly without intention or without trying to address a problem, okay? Unplanned change. Now, evolutionary and revolutionary, these two might be confusing. Evolutionary change is gradual, incremental, step-by-step changes, okay? It doesn't happen suddenly, doesn't happen in a short time. It is a long evolutionary change process. Revolutionary changes are changes that are rapid and has a lot of impact, dramatic impacts, okay? So just think about revolution. Evolution, think about the evolution theory, right? Like slowly in a long term, gradual change. Revolutionary is a sudden change, a rapid change, and a big impact. So the difference between evolutionary and revolutionary is very important here. Planned and unplanned is very obvious. Now let's talk about Levin's model for change. This is a well accepted model for change. Kurt Lewin is a psychologist. He recommended this model. In his model, in this way, in this part, there is forces for change, and here there are forces against change. So forces for change are pushing the bar from here, forces against change pushing the bar from there. If the forces for change are stronger than forces against change, then the change will be implemented, right? But if the forces for change are forces against change are stronger than forces for change, the organization is not likely to implement change successfully. Okay. So when implementing change, leaders must either increase the forces for change, or they need to address or decrease the forces against the change. How would you decrease the forces against the change? We will talk about it in a little bit. Okay. Levin's model also has a second part. Okay. So Levin proposes that first, the organization needs to unfreeze, which means you need to explain the need for change and prepare your organization, prepare your employees. Unfreeze them, explain them why the change is going to be implemented. Why do we need this change? What benefits is it going to bring the company and the individuals in the company? Okay. And then there's the change stage, which is implementing the change, changing the, like they say, fixing the process, fixing the product, equipment, whatever the change is. After the implementation stage closes, then there's the refreezing. Here, the manager, the leaders need to provide support to the employees, the followers, give time and resources to them. It might be training, rewards. This is so basically making sure that the change will be accepted by the company, by the organization as a whole. The truth is that usually companies spend very little time on this unfreezing stage, okay, because of short-term focus, because of pressure, external pressure. They want to make the change real quick. Therefore, they don't spend much time on the unfreezing stage, which causes problems later on the refreezing stage and change stage, because here then you will see employees that's not accepting the change, but the change is already implemented. Okay, so that's a big dilemma there, right? It's going to cause a lot of dissatisfaction. And the rest of the chapter is talking about factors to consider when implementing change. Please read through this. This is the process of a planned change. How do you deal with unplanned change? Okay, remember we talked about planned versus unplanned. When there's an unplanned change, how do you deal with it? As a leader, avoid becoming too formal, hierarchical, and inflexible. Okay, be proactive. Replace and rotate leaders. Experiment with new ideas, methods, and processes. So there are organizational causes of resistance to change. There are group level causes of resistance to change, and there are individual causes for resistance to change. In organizational level, the causes are disinterest, organizational culture itself, the structure of the company, lack of rewards for change, and poor timing of the change. In the group level, some group norms, group thinking. Remember from last lecture, group thinking is when there's too much cohesion in the teams, there's not many diversity, so that might be a cause of resistance to change. And ineffective leadership. When we go down to individual level, as a person, think of yourself. There's a work that you have been doing it for years in the same way, and then suddenly some industrial engineers comes and tells you, hey, we need to change the steps for this job. You can't now follow these steps, you have to do it this way. And then there's going to be the fear of the unknown, fear of failure, because now you're going to do something that you are not just accustomed to. Okay, then you'll scare of job security. You'll be like, oh my gosh, what if I cannot get used to these new steps? What about my job security? Okay, and then also individual characteristics effects is a main cause of resistance to change. Some people okay, are not open to innovations, to new things, okay. They want very standardized jobs, okay. So individual characteristics and traits is a very important point here, okay. And some individuals might have previous negative experiences with change, okay. So experience is also a cause of resistance in the individual level. Then what are the methods of dealing with resistance to change, okay. Educate these people, communicate with them, get their participation and involvement, support them, facilitate, negotiate with them, okay. So these are very important terms here. Basically what it's saying is, in order to deal with resistance to change, you need to make sure everybody in that system that will be affected by the change are communicated on what is the change, why are we doing that change, and what will be the benefits of that change for them and for the company. Now you have to encourage creativity, okay. How do you get creativity in a team? I told this a few times. Diversity, okay. People from different backgrounds, different cultures creates heterogeneity and more creativity, okay. And in complex environments, such as a situation where there's going to be a dramatic change, heterogeneity is important, okay. Also homogeneity, in this case there will be less conflict, faster decisions, faster agreements, but problem solving skills will be lower. And now what is improvisation, okay. That's creation of something spontaneous. This is slightly different than creativity. Some of you probably already know this is something actually art term rather than an engineering term, and it requires expertise, knowledge on the area, a perspective on the situation, on the case, and willingness to take risks, okay. So improvisation is also a method to deal with change, deal with resistance to change. I'm sorry. On your page, your textbook, page 290, it talks about improvisation, and it's talking about Bryan Cranston's portrayal of Walter. If you watched Breaking Bad, by the way, that's my favorite show so far. Please read this page 291, first paragraph. It's talking about how in Breaking Bad he had the improvisation. It's very interesting, especially if you have seen Breaking Bad show. It's about this high school chemistry student that becomes like a drug lord. Very interesting show. And then of course vision and change. Vision is essential to successful change, right? The leader has to have a vision and has to share that vision with the employees, okay. So in your vision you need to clarify that your company, your organization is ready for any change that will improve your company. That has to be in your vision as an organization, okay. The organization needs to have empowerment, okay. Empowerment is giving authority, giving responsibility and authority to your followers, right? We learned that already. You need to have confidence in your followers, okay. Your organization has to be flexible, okay, and cooperative. So if you don't have that vision for change, then how are you going to expect your followers not to resist the change, okay. Then it talks about exemplary visionary leadership, okay, practices of visionary leadership. Please read this. What is a learning organization? What are the core values of learning organizations? What are the blocks to learning organizations? Basically, the learning organization is organizations where people continuously increase their capacity to create, okay? there's innovation, cooperation, and the knowledge is transferred throughout the company. So to achieve such a environment in an organization, of course there will be blocks, and this figure actually shows you those blocks, okay, barriers. And this is the textbook answer to the leadership question. See if what you wrote on that piece of paper matches anything here. If not, your answer is still probably right. Don't think that you wrote a wrong answer. So that's it for this week. Please read chapter 9 to get the details. As I said, this is a very brief summary. Okay. Thank you for listening to me. Talk to you guys next week.